Hi, would everybody please take their seats? As CEO of this rain-free summit, let me welcome you all to Philadelphia. For much of this century, America has focused their energy and their attention on a foreign enemy. Today, as the century closes and we approach the new millennium, we can no longer face a threat from abroad. But we do face challenges here at home. Too many children in need of safe places to live and to play, in need of
Thank you. Won't you all sit down, please? Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Colin. Thank you very, very much, Colin. Most regrettably, I could not be here last night. I understand a proper tribute was paid to George Romney, who was one of the initiators of the summit, along with Ray Chambers. I would be very remiss if I didn't make a comment about the role that George Romney had in initiating this summit. I can recall very, very vividly his coming to my office in California, not once, but several times. He was not only an outstanding governor of our state, but George Romney was a totally dedicated person to the concept and the action of voluntary participation. So, George, we all thank you for your contribution. This morning, in front of Independence Hall, where we had a magnificent gathering for a most outstanding cause, I couldn't help but think back 21 years ago on July 4, 1976, when this country celebrated its 200th birthday. I had the very high honor at that time to first that morning go to Valley Forge, and then to Independence Hall, where we celebrated the Declaration of Independence, followed by the tall ship ceremony in New York Harbor. That was a magnificent day in the history of our country, the dedication to freedom and liberty. It was a kickoff of a history of a country unparalleled in what's good about humanity. But the meeting this morning gives us all an opportunity, again at Independence Hall, to show what we can do for the youth of America in the next decade. The goal of 2000 by 2000, helping some 15 million young people, is a tremendous challenge. I hope and trust the coverage of our gathering this morning will inspire young people, adults, and others to walk through that door that Colin Powell has opened so they can participate in this tremendous effort to take our youth so they can become the kind of leaders that we want for the next century. So it's a high honor and a rare privilege for me to join President Clinton, President Bush, President Carter, and others in kicking off this tremendous effort. Thank you very, very much. And now it's a very special honor for me to introduce a longtime, very, very dear friend of my wife Betty and myself, the 41st President of the United States, George Bush.
Good to see you. Mr. President, thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. Mr. President, Hillary, distinguished guests, thank you, President Ford. I can now call him Jerry. I call him Sir for all the years we served in the Congress, and then when he became president, even better than that. Looking out at this group, I refuse to give advice to all the leaders assembled here. Remember what President Kennedy went to the group of business guys? He said, if I weren't president, I'd be buying stocks right now. Kind of back said, yeah, if you weren't president, I'd be buying stocks right now. So I'm not going to give any advice to this crowd. Seeing Tipper and Vice President here, I remember getting advice from my mother once, right after a State of the Union message. President Reagan was speaking, and I get home to the VP house, phone rings, it's Mother, who gave me advice till the day she died. And she said, George, I watched the State of the Union message, and I noticed that during the message, you were talking to Tip O'Neill. I said, he started it, so you might say, what is that apropos of? Nothing. I know I messed up last night, and I'd like to blame the teleprompter guy, except everybody else did it well with that teleprompter man. So I will simply say thank you to those who I know did a lot, and in doing this, I'm going to risk forgetting a lot of people here. I'm going to forget a lot of people, which I shouldn't. Of course, Colin, my friend and pal with whom I was so proud to serve and who really has given of his heart. You know, you read all the political stuff and all of that. This comes from his gut, from his heart. And I know it, and I've been around him a lot, and I have great respect. And if you don't believe he's been committed, ask Alma. She hadn't seen him in months. So, no, but he's wonderful. And Colonel Smullen, who works with him, an unsung guy behind the scenes with whom my offices work, I want to thank him. Ray Chambers, you've heard about. Ray is an inspiration. I'm getting along in years, and I've got several inspirations yet to come, I'm sure, but one of them is Ray Chambers. He came up to see me early on up in Maine. We talked about all of this, and then he delivered. Active, busy in business and all, he's just carved out an awful lot of his life to helping other people, long before this summit, I might add. And we owe him a vote of thanks, and of course, Stuart Shapiro, perhaps the unsung hero of all of this, who we heard from in the beginning, and then Marion Hurd and Bob Goodwin. Harris Wofford, I hadn't known, but President Clinton, you chose a good one when you picked him. He has been fantastic, and he's just done a great job for all of us. And there are many others. I hope you'd excuse me if I single out Greg Petersmeyer, who if I ever got forgetful about this concept of 1,000 points of light when I was in the White House, Greg was my conscience, and he did a great job for us. So I know I'm leaving out some, but I want to say thanks to all. And now I want to introduce Eli Siegel. Everyone in the room knows of him, but I hope you know of his dedication to helping other people. Eli, all yours.
President Bush, it is an honor for me to be so warmly introduced by such a champion of citizen service, especially to such a distinguished group today. Last night, you were more than a point of light. You were a point of inspiration, and Dana Carvey would have been proud of you. As some of you know, I began my career in service after a career in the private sector. After so many years of building balance sheets, I was given a unique opportunity to help build lives. That's what the President's AmeriCorps program is all about. It's what it has done for more than 50,000 young people helping them pay for college, but asking them to give back something in return. AmeriCorps will not solve the problems alone, which tear at our social fabric. But in the words of our motto, we're going to get things done. And that is what I find so exciting about the summit. All of us in attendance today, business leaders, civic leaders, religious leaders, all of us recognize that service, beyond anything else, is a strategy, that mobilizing volunteer power works, that citizen service is a cost-effective delivery system for change. For President Clinton, there are many ways that we can serve. Some will mentor and tutor, others will build homes for the homeless, still others will help move people from welfare to work. All of these undertakings are about America, and they're about the American community that we share and enrich each time we reach out to someone, a friend, a neighbor, someone in need. In the months ahead, I hope to work with you, with many of you as the President and all of us labor mightily to make real this promise of welfare to work. In the spirit of the summit, businesses, large and small, can help move people from the welfare rolls to the payroll, and in the process, help former recipients build productive lives and a better future for the children that they love so much. My friends, all of you in attendance here today made extraordinary commitments. So is your president. He is committed to strengthening our children and our families through service. He knows the difference that service makes because he's been devoted to it all of his life. From a handshake on the White House lawn to another young president many years ago, to his college years and his law school years, to all of his years in public life, service has been more than a vocation for Bill Clinton. It's been a calling. I met Bill Clinton, my friends, when we were in our 20s. 30 years later, I confess to you, sometimes I get a little bit tired. But your president doesn't. His passionate, irresistible commitment to serve and to lead us into a new century, stronger, more united, and better as a people because of it, makes me so proud to introduce my friend and our president, President Bill Clinton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eli. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I've had a great time here, and I want to thank all of you for being so patient while I lumber around with my temporary disability. Can you imagine how bad I'd look if I'd actually jumped out of an airplane? I'm looking forward to not being president. You know, if I can jump out of an airplane and look like Jerry Ford does in 30 years, I'll be one happy guy. That's a great thing. I want to thank President Bush for all the people that he mentioned, and thanking them. I join with that, and especially Ray Chambers and Stuart Shapiro and General Powell for their extraordinary efforts. I'd also like to thank the leaders of the corporate and nonprofit sector who are here today, and including my longtime friend Millard Fuller, Bob Allen, Doug Watson, and Jerry Greenwald, and so many others. We've all been washed in the warm glow of lots of words and music and the powerful examples.
And I must say, I will live with the stories that the young people told last night at that event for the rest of my life. I was thinking, I would just like to make 2 points here, because I really want this to make a difference. I think there are 2 keys to whether, when people look back on this moment 10 years from now, they say, these people really did something special. They changed America. The first is what General Powell and Ray Chambers and others are doing with the follow-up on America's Promise. And everything you can do to support that, you should. Making those promises. We're going to try to do our part. I said that yesterday that the Department of Defense will tutor or teach 1 million children in the next 4 years. The Department of Transportation and the contractors with whom it works have committed to reach another 1 million kids with tutoring or teaching. We are going to go from 1,500 to 2,000 schools we've adopted. Going back to what Eli said, we'll have more to say about that later. We're going to hire 10,000 people to move from welfare to work so they can support their children better. We're going to try to extend health insurance to 5 million kids and try to at least make the first 2 years of college as available as a high school education is today. We'll try to do our part. And we'll try to do it in very personal ways. The last Christmas and the last birthday I had were some of the best I've ever had in my life, because my gift from the White House staff was a notebook of personal pledges for community service. My Secret Service detail adopted a junior high school in Washington, D.C., where those young people are getting the role models that they need. We'll try to do our part. And the follow-up, one reason I wanted to do this summit so badly was that I thought we could find a completely nonpartisan way to embrace this issue. And then I knew I could trust Colin Powell and Ray Chambers and the others to do good follow-up. That's the first thing. Here's the second thing. Let me just tell you a brief story. But before I came to Philadelphia, I asked a man in Washington, D.C. named Kent Amos, and a lot of you know, to come in and see me. I met him when my friend Ron Brown died in a plane crash, and he was Ron's next-door neighbor. And a lot of you know he and his wife, Carmen, kind of got into this volunteer work by just taking in kids that their children went to school with who came from dysfunctional backgrounds. And they wound up having 20 or more at a time that were in effect living with them. And now he's tried to take the model that he thought he perfected in his own home and kind of take it into neighborhoods and communities. But I asked him to come see me, and I said, what do you want me to do now? What can I do to help you? And what do we have to do now? He said, go to that summit and tell them the breakout sessions are the most important thing that's going to occur. Because unless every community gets organized, community by community, we will not have the maximum benefit of this. Because essentially the problem is we have an unacceptably high percentage of people living in dysfunctional environments. And you can do a number of good things for them sporadically, but until you completely change the environment, we won't have the success rate we need. That's essentially what General Powell said in our last conversation before he took his uniform off. That all the troubled young people that he knew who came into the military had gone from whatever dysfunctional environment they had into a completely functional environment. Now, you can't guarantee that, any of you individually, but collectively, community by community, we can. So in that sense, the governors and the mayors who are here are profoundly important people. And the people who run community-based nonprofits are important people. The only other thing I would say is, let's really pay attention to these breakout sessions, and let's promise ourselves that in addition to running up the numbers that we all promise, and since I've got a big organization, I can promise big numbers, that we're honest to goodness going to promise ourselves that we will try to change the culture in these communities from dysfunctional environments to functional ones. You saw these kids, they're great, they're going to make it, they're going to do just fine if we just give them what they need in a systematic way, place by place. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I'm just going to tell folks who'll be working on it.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would now just continue with your lunch for a while, the President and the other presidents will be making